to the press now, and Nicholas Rushworth is back with us. Nick, you're starting out with the international papers now and a couple of cartoons in the US press.
Well, of course, that Trump bandwagon rolls on definitively now, doesn't it? Let's go to a cartoon in the Miami Herald, which is showing the American president aboard an elephant. There you can see reality in one direction and Trump sort of really charging ahead there. But the elephant, the GOP, is saying, are you going to pivot soon, right? You're going to pivot? You're going to go for that change right now? Time to pivot. Good time to pivot. Yeah. Panic, panic. You look at the elephant's face. It's in despair. Let's go to the LA Times. Their cartoon is looking at democracy American style. One guy at the end of the bar is saying, hey, I vote to put that crazy guy at the other end of the bar in charge of US foreign policy. Trump there celebrating either a glass of champagne or a cocktail, saying, NATO, they're losers. Beating the Islamic State group, that's easy. Screw China, I've done that. Putin, I just love that guy. So Trump there on a roll.
Yeah, well, the Washington Post also has an opinion piece on this subject from a Republican now, and a former official in both Bush administrations is saying it's time for a third-party candidate.
Well, this is Elliot Cohen. He worked for the Defense and State Departments for Bush Sr. and for George W. He says Trump is utterly unfit for the position of Republican nominee and time for a third candidate, even a third party, even if that hands victory to Hillary Clinton. Now, he says the party of Lincoln, the Republicans, is sick. The Trump candidacy, a disgrace. He says names, but he doesn't actually really feel convinced by them very much, but says someone has to come forward now and keep conservative consciences clean. That's a quote.
Let's stay with politics now, Nick. Moving on to the London mayoral race. Papers are leading with that, aren't they?
Well, this is the race between Zach Goldsmith on the Conservative side and Sadiq Khan, and the Wall Street Journal Europe is actually leading on its front page with that, showing the faces of the two men, lots of attention on them. Now, Cameron, the Prime Minister of the UK, will be looking on, and the Wall Street Journal Europe says he's caught in a difficult position because on the one hand, Zach Goldsmith is a Eurosceptic. That's no good for Cameron's wish for the United Kingdom to stay in the European Union. Khan, on the other hand, who is a radical on the left, he supports Britain staying in the European Union. So will Cameron be actually hoping that Khan gets it? Very much a difficult position for the Prime Minister. That's the Wall Street Journal's take.
And, of course, these elections, it's not just London voting. They're calling it Super Thursday in the UK. It's more than just London. It's the biggest test of public opinion ahead of that Brexit referendum and the 2020 general.
Well, Thursday is British election day, isn't it? We've got Scottish Parliament vote, we've got the Northern Ireland and Welsh assemblies voting. Mayors, not just London, are voting, are being voted for. Still with London, though, which is getting a lot of attention in the press. Here again, the two men, Zach Goldsmith and Sadiq Khan, and the Independent stressing that the key issue for Londoners is that whole thing about housing. How can anybody afford to live in London these days with the price of a flat per week for renters is horrendous. So the paper there, The Independent, is saying the result of that crisis in housing means that people who rent, let's say, over a 5-year period, people will move perhaps more than 3 times to try and find that apartment that is good value for money, and they have to re-register for the vote each time. Hence, the renters in the capital will not be voting as much as the owners, and that plays in the hands of Zach Goldsmith. So that's the take for The Independent. Let me just end on a story also in the British press about a humanoid superhero that will be going to Mars. It looks like the age of the android is upon us. If you ever look there, NASA's technology is a 6 foot, 1 meter 80 robot, which will go to Mars before any human mission does. I couldn't have looked at this thinking, well, we just hand over our political life on this planet Earth to the humanoid robot. At least he can use a screwdriver.
Yeah, we could vote him in, why not?
It's just a question of who does the programming, I guess. That's the problem.
It does. Thank you for that, Nicholas Rushworth with the press review, Stephen Carroll with the business, and I'm Hala Mohideen. Do stay with us here on France 24.